It seems to me that we need to separate reparations as stuff owed to us as a result of stuff that's still being done to us and that was done murderously, horribly over centuries to our ancestors. That reparations is about adequate and appropriate compensation to us for that stuff. And we need to separate that from all of the other stuff that we might wish to talk about and which I don't think actually belongs on the reparations. We can call it liberation struggle if we like, and all of the psychological stuff and all of that would be in there, and breaking the power of white power worldwide would be in there. But reparations, as I understand it, is really about compensation for a wrong, an injury. And we are here dealing with history's worst injury. So, we need to bear that in mind. The white people know that, you know. And that is why the 20th century, which was in a way a century of reparations, I'm not the first person to say that. Everybody, in one way or another, who was injured in the 20th century got reparations. The Germans compensated the French and the British. The Japanese, when they were thrown out of the United States, were compensated. It's a long, 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 long list, right? Africans didn't get any compensation, neither in 1938, nor in 1865, nor whenever you care to mention at the end of any enslavement process, you won't find Africans getting compensation. And in the 20th century, in the century of reparations, Africa never get none then either. Now, there are about 3 instances in which Africans either asked for or agreed to reparations. Gaddafi got the Italians to agree to compensate Libya for a horrible wrong done to them in the early 20th century. What happened to Gaddafi? And ask yourself partly why. What happened to Gaddafi? The Italians agreed, and they were part of the process of, we know what happened to inside of Libya and to Gaddafi. Right? Aristide made a demand for reparations, a correct, legitimate one, not for enslavement reparations, but for the restoration of money that the French extorted from us between 1825 and 1947. What happened to Aristide? Overthrown. And there's a connection between the overthrow and the demand for reparations. And there's one other instance of Africans getting reparations. It's the Herero people of Namibia, who were almost exterminated at the beginning of the 20th century by the Jews. Sorry. German. I don't know what kind of Freudian slip that is, if indeed it is Freudian, by the Germans. But a really horrible massacre, genocide. It's a miracle that there are any Herero people in the world now, because of how systematic that massacre was. Some time ago in the 1970s, I don't know who amongst the Herero agreed to a settlement with Western Germany. And it was next to nothing. But the Germans are now saying, or trying to say, you signed. And that is the end of that. You can't come back to we for no more. Right? And that is the danger that we face in respect of this matter. Now let me go back to the fact that the Europeans understand the proportion of what is involved here. We're not talking petty billions. We're talking billions upon billions and possibly trillions. And the Euro-Americans understand this very, very well. Which is why they have taken every opportunity and created opportunities to say in every way they can, we know all or know nothing. Right? And they have put it into a UN resolution. What we did to you was either not us or not you, but in any event, whatever it was legal at the time. And they stand on that as if it's a rock of Gibraltar or something even more solid than that, and then don't intend to move because they know what is at stake. Now, if in 2013 they are appearing to move, what conclusion, Africans, must we come to about that? No, I want to answer, you know. What conclusion must we come to about it? If in 2013 the European powers that be give even an inkling that they are about to talk to us about reparations, it cannot be in our interest. No. It cannot be in the interest of our ancestors. No. And it cannot be in the interest of our joint descendants if the Europeans are ready to talk about this matter now. Because, and this is important, reparations about power, it's about law, it's about morality. The Europeans control for the moment two of those. They control law and they control money. They control power and they control law. And them have no morality. and that matters. All they talk about morality is performance. It's not actually about morality, as anybody who's seriously interested in morality would understand it. And the fact is about a domain in which we have been systematically disempowered over 500 or 1300 or however many years you want to count it. It actually does matter that we, as a disempowered people, cannot at the moment seriously make the demand for reparations because we don't have the power to enforce it, and a disempowered people cannot get reparations unless the other side agrees that it is morally due. And them have no morality on the basis of everything they have said about it to date says, if there's a moral issue, we're sorry, it's a long time ago, etc., 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 but really it was legal as bad, and especially now we know it was bad, we never know it was bad then, right? and so on. So, on the moral plane, where they stand is in fact a denial, just as on the legal plane there's a denial, and on the issue of power they stand very firmly. Move we if you can, is what they're saying. So, if in 2013 CARICOM has suddenly discovered that it may be possible to negotiate with the white people, and that the white people might be interested in negotiating, you have to watch out, something wrong, something dangerously wrong going on. Because these people never betray their own interests. And certainly not in relation to ours. Never mention a time in history when that did happen. The whole record of history is of Europeans defending their interests ruthlessly right down to the end. Mention another time. And the fuss about Nelson right now is them recognizing the extent to which Nelson acted in their interest. And that is what it's not an attack on Nelson, you know. No. We have to understand that he played a part, and it was right to compromise about getting the vote. What happened after that? That is the question. And how the thing has been organized after that. We're not talking about South Africa. This thing, reparation. And we've got to be clear. So, somebody was asking how Lee Day get into it. Well, it's obvious how Lee Day get into it. Lee Day appears to have had a success in relation to Kenya, right? And it's not the majority of the people who were injured, neither the small minority of them been compensated. And they stick it, and they stick it in a strange area of law. So, our people, our leadership, all them flag independence people, are looking out for opportunities either to enrich themselves or to pull down the debt mountain that they themselves built or whatever, and them don't want to pull down the debt mountain the right way. Walter Rodney did tell them how to pull down the debt mountain and tell them so the debt did pay off enough time over already. But even if that's not true, what you have to do is repudiate it. Unite and repudiate. We pay enough time over and we're not giving it anymore. And stand up like people. They're not prepared to do that. So instead, they are seeking compromises on the bodies and blood and sacrifice of our ancestors. We can't make them do it. I'm not interested in them. I'm not interested in negotiating with Lee Day, or monitoring Lee Day. That operation, appointing Lee Day and these people talking to us about compromise and negotiation is absolute rubbish. The premise on which it is put to us is idiotic and dangerous. What are we going to monitor Lee Day for? What are we going to ask Lee Day which Africans you're talking to? Then we'll find Africans to talk to. African deb out. African lawyers who don't believe in reparations deb out. We need to know that. This thing has to stop. There is no basis upon which CARICOM, leave aside whether they are actually legally qualified, whether they are proper applicants before the International Court of Justice. Leave that aside. There's questions there. There's a whole heap of questions. Leave that aside. They cannot formulate a reparations claim that is motivated by the petty problem of solving the debt. There is no connection between Caribbean states' debt and what is owed to our ancestors. And I can tell you for nothing that anybody who's trying to make that connection needs to be shot. And that's the best thing that can happen to them. We have to oppose those people who are trying to say that if you don't support them on this, you're advocating inaction. Those people do not understand what is at stake. They really don't, right? Trillions of compensation is at stake. Us Africans need to understand that as the Europeans do. We need to recognize that we are not prepared, objectively not prepared, for the fight with them about this. So right now, there are a number of things that we should be doing. We should be informing ourselves about reparations and so on. But much more importantly, given the issue of power in the area of reparations, what we should really be doing is liberating ourselves. Because only when we have been liberated and broken with the power of the white world, and broken indeed the power of the white world, will we be in a position effectively to demand of them that they give us what we are owed as a result of what they have done for the last 500 years. Everything else is rubbish. Everything else is dangerous rubbish. Everything else is self-interested rubbish. Everything else is misguided and self-deluded rubbish. Right? What has happened? We have a state of affairs in which in 2001 at Durban, the continental African leadership sold out on reparations. They weren't interested, right? They weren't interested. The white people persuaded the African leaders at Durban that if they talked to them about debt relief and abandon what the Caribbean people, led primarily by Beckles, were saying on reparations, then would give them some debt relief. That was the deal. Right? That was the deal. No Caribbean leader since then has spoken to continental Africa about correcting their position on that matter. Not one. What they have now done is effectively to join with the continental African leaders on this matter. It's debt relief, the debt relief road that they're going down. Kevin Coburn was right. It's debt relief masquerading as reparations. And if we as Africans allow this to happen, out of the grounds that we must cooperate with them, we must tell them what to do, I am into telling our leadership in the Caribbean what to do. I'll tell them all kind of things. But we are telling them. When they start telling us, the first question is, what is it that you're saying? That's the first question. And we know what they're saying. They are saying that they want to get into a wicked deal that betrays our ancestors and betrays us and betrays those who are coming up behind. And we cannot allow it to happen, no matter who here, out of whatever misunderstanding, is advocating support for what they're doing. It must be torn down. Thank you.
Yeah,